Hey guys, Leo once again from the Overclocker. But you know what? I'm not here to actually talk to you about any piece of hardware. As you can see, my background is a little bit different. And I'm hoping to have a different background every time I come to you impromptu and just talk to you about the stuff that's happening in the industry, the things that I care about, that I genuinely don't get a chance to talk to you about because I'm always going between this project, that project. I'm putting together a magazine as well, something that I really love. And it's actually the name of the channel called the Overclocker magazine, but I haven't put one out since Intel 14th Gen Core that came out, right? And we all know how subsequently that's been received, or at least over the last few months. But anyway, we'll get onto that later on. But point is, I haven't been able to talk to you guys just about the channel and just as a person, you know? I'm not telling you about any sort of hardware or anything like that. Just my opinions, which I generally share on Twitter, or I'm old school, or on X, or whatever it is. And I don't speak much on TikTok. I just put out some other content. Actually, if you are on TikTok, please follow the Overclocker channel on TikTok. Don't worry, I won't be bludgeoning you with stuff to watch. It's just some random stuff that I put on there that I find actually quite appealing. The few topics that I want to cover, and the first one, let's just get to it, is X870 and Ryzen 9000. What am I going to say? There's still hope here. There's still hope here, particularly when it comes to the X3D parts. I think how AMD handled the whole release, releasing the CPUs without the motherboards, and thus, obviously, that situation was always going to be underwhelming. I mean, if you compare that to what Intel does, you always get new motherboard chipset with new CPU. And in as much as we all appreciate that AMD platforms last an eternity, that can also come back to bite you in the backside. Many retailers do say that, you know, in as much as Ryzen 7000 sells a lot, particularly 7800 X3D, that's just a champion of a CPU. I think board vendors want to sell motherboards as well, and that's not going to happen if AMD has a motherboard or ecosystem that lasts 1,000 generations or whatever have you. It's good for us, the end user, but I can imagine board vendors are like, And as a result of that, it means that when you get like a first generation of motherboards, let's say X670, what is the incentive to revise those, to add improvements in terms of overclocking, power, or whatever it is that a board vendor felt like they could add to the SKUs that they have? You don't get that opportunity because it's just that release, right? We've had B650 and X670, just the whole 600 series since AM5 came out, and that's all there is. So I do look forward to the X870 boards, particularly because it's not so much that the chipset allows so much more changes, it's the fact that board vendors have come out with ways to actually make this a lot more interesting than the 600 series boards. I mean, if you look at what you can get now, let's use Gigabyte for an example. What Gigabyte is essentially offering right now in the 800 series is incredible, absolutely incredible. Look at something like the Wi-Fi 7, the Aorus Elite, Aorus Elite Wi-Fi 7, the Ice edition or the normal one, right, the black one. What an absolute monster of a board for 7,500 Rand. That's ridiculous, that's absolutely ridiculous. And from a personal perspective, that's the first board I would look at because it gives you premium features at a budget price. In fact, I would say this, you're gonna struggle to find a better value for money motherboard than that one. The value for money that you get from the Aorus Elite Wi-Fi 7, wow, I'm still blown away. I am absolutely still blown away because that's an X870E motherboard for 7,500. You get two USB 4 V4 ports, I think, on that motherboard, and just so many other things that you generally wouldn't expect at that price point. Yes, it's a 6-layer PCB and it has, I think, 60 amp power stages. But let's be honest, do you really care about that? Like, as a former competitive overclocker or someone who was really involved in that actively, I can tell you that, yes, it may matter for those people, but genuinely, like, the people who have the technical know-how will tell you that, yes, you're not always going to get 60 amps output from each of the power stages, but collectively, to overwhelm that VRM, you're probably going to need to be drawing like 600 watts or something, and that's not going to happen for most people. So I would say that in as much as I appreciate high quality components and electrically for it to be something amazing, it's generally not necessary for people. And at $7.5 grand, like, you can't blame Gigabyte for doing a 6-layer PCB with 60 amp power stages, because yeah, it will be more than enough for whatever CPU you use, whether that's the 9950 X3D, the Nova vanilla one, the 9800 X3D, whatever it is. Even under LN2, I think you'll be fine. The only issue that may stop you from doing LN2 on a motherboard like this is that it's not a Tachyon. It's not made to go crazy with overclocking and things like that. But if it weren't for that, I don't think that this would be an issue. 800 series motherboards are right now more impressive than the vanilla 9000 CPUs in isolation. I hope that at some point I'm able to marry the two, so I have like a 9000 series CPU on hand, and I have one of the motherboards that I use, and put those together and actually see what you can do with a 9000 series CPU when the new BIOSes have come out. I think it was Agisa like 1.2.02, which I haven't experienced with the 9000 series CPUs, because the first time I actually used the 9000 series CPUs was on a 600 series motherboard, and that was before the new Agisa came out. So I can't tell you how that would operate or how that would fare, but I'm looking forward to that sort of testing. And hopefully with the 9800 X3D, which is probably the worst kept secret right now, it's online everywhere, that I think it's November 10th or November 11th or something, there should be some sort of release for at least one of the X3D CPUs. I don't know, but it's just the rumor mill stuff. But anyway, let's move on from that. Now I want to go and talk to you about Intel. So Z890 is no secret as well. We've got a new CPU coming from Intel, and that's Arrow Lake. And yeah, we've got new naming scheme as well, 285K, 265K, and 245K. I'm actually looking forward to these. I'm really excited to see what Intel can deliver upon us in terms of IPC gains, and just what real world effect will it have for us to not have hyper-threading anymore. I think Intel spoke quite well, or rather gave a brief description on their own channel, actually on YouTube, on why hyper-threading didn't make sense for them, or they decided to turn it off. And I do find those reasons agreeable from an outsider's perspective, of course. But I'm interested to know, how does that affect our gaming? How does that affect productivity? And for the people who buy these CPUs, let's say you had a 14900K and you had bought it for productivity reasons, does the 285K offer you an obvious upgrade path, or is it actually a side grade or downgrade? And for the gamers, I think at the very least, you will get some sort of benefit from going for the Arrow Lake S CPUs. I don't know yet, because I don't have a CPU or a platform to test on. But I really do think that there will be an upgrade there for people who are looking to buy something new. And besides, I always like the new Intel stuff, if only because it speaks to improved IMCs. And I really, really like DRAM overclocking, DRAM reviews, and things like that. So I'm looking forward to the new CU DIMMs. Actually, let's talk about the new CU DIMMs. So this is, yes, Cam 2 was something else that seemed interesting. And I think MSI showed off a demo. It's the one demo that we all know of, where there's Cam memory that's doing like a rather high speed, and it looks fairly impressive. But I think that was a beta motherboard. I don't know if it'll ever be retail. But in terms of CU DIMMs, I'm actually genuinely interested in how that's going to work. In terms of the current chipsets that we have, so I'm talking Intel Z790, I'm not so sure about 690, but is there a possibility for DRAM vendors to update their BIOSes so that the CPUs have better support for CU DIMMs? I'm not necessarily saying that they're going to clock better, but as you know, or you may not know, CU DIMMs come by default at, I think the JDEC spec is 6400. And as a result, some motherboards may not be able to post or boot CU DIMMs purely because of that, or some other reasons. Actually, I had an experience with the Z790 motherboard that was not able to boot the only set of CU DIMMs that I have right now. And I think it's a BIOS issue more than anything else, because another motherboard from the very same vendor was able to do that, and it's also an Intel platform. So I think it is a situation of just BIOS support. But nonetheless, we've seen CU DIMMs V-Color announced like 9200. I think the memory vendor, Binwen or something like that. I keep mixing up this name. They announced or showed off 9600. And I've heard from some other people who are in the industry that they'll have kits that are 10,000 and so forth. So that should be really interesting, provided, of course, that the latency isn't up to wazoo, because I can imagine who would want to do DDR5 9600 CL52. That's not good. That's worse than, I don't know, like 6400 CL32 or something like that. Don't quote me on that. You can actually calculate the absolute latency for that. But I think we want something like, I can live with CL44 or 46 even, right? Provided the speed is high enough. But anyway, we'll cross that bridge when we get there. And I'm genuinely hoping that we get memory that really does impress. And we're finally not limited by CPUs. Like I've had to use CPUs that had a weak IMC, so therefore I couldn't show the real limits of DRAM. I actually think of the Kingston limited edition memory. I know that memory can do really, really well. And in fact, their Corsair Dominator Titanium can also do way more than what I was able to show, purely because I had an IMC limitation. So I do look forward to revisiting those DRAM kits on the new AMD and Intel platforms to see what they can do without memory limits or IMC limits. And with that said as well, I want to talk about things that are actually fun. So the channel is called, as you know, this is a weird thing to talk about now, like years into the channel existing, but as you know, the channel is called TheOverclocker magazine. But that name came about, it's a historical name, but it came about from a long time ago. As I said earlier, when I was actively involved in overclocking, or that was my pursuit, like a daily sort of thing that I looked at. But as all things, we grow up, and I'm just no longer in that space where I'm just LN2 all day, right? When the opportunity comes, definitely I'll take it because it's a novelty thing. But that's not what I'm doing all the time, because I've just grown up and my time is taken up by other things, my other pursuits and other passions that I have. And as a result, the name stays, but the actual active overclocking is not necessarily something that I look to do. With that said, I still love overclocking all my regular systems. The system that I'm recording this on right now is overclocked. The system that is in my studio where I do the testing and so forth is overclocked. The bench rig is overclocked. Everything is overclocked, but it's not to the point where it's going to be competitive. I'm not going to spend 12 hours trying to stabilize memory so I can run VST or something like that. It's just not me anymore. Even though I love, appreciate, and still a fan of everybody who's still, and just the activity itself, but I'm a fan of all the people who are still actively involved in that, because I genuinely know how tough it is to be actively involved in overclocking, and just the technical know-how and the prowess that you need to have to rise up in the ranks. That is something that is really tough, and you spend hours and hours, days, weeks pouring yourself and your energies into that. So mad respect to the people who are still doing that. I think it's almost similar to my relationship with bodybuilding. There was a time when I loved bodybuilding so much that that's how I trained. Everything, you know, have 4 or 5 meals a day, 2 gym sessions, 1 in the morning, evening, gym bro, all of that stuff. But my interest changed, and as I got older, I just still love bodybuilding. In fact, I'm looking forward to the Mr. Olympia Classic Physique and Open Bodybuilding as well, later on this month in October. May C-Bum take it again in the Classic Physique, and the Open, it's more fun for me. Whoever, may the best men win. I would love to see somebody aesthetic win, like an Andrew Jack or something like that, but that's not the point of this. Point is, you can love something and be actively involved in it and then grow out of it, but still have the appreciation, respect, and reverence for it. And that's pretty much what happened with overclocking and with me, and with bodybuilding with me as well. So I still love these things, but I don't pursue them actively the way that any name that I might have on an online platform may suggest. So why am I telling you this? Well, because when else am I going to tell you? Right? When else am I going to tell you? All this time, the channel has just been that review, that review, that review. I think earlier on, I did talk to you. What did I have? Talking smack about tech. But that was not convenient for me to record. That's why you're seeing this video. AMD VGA situation. Yo, let's be honest, guys. Let's be honest. So, briefly, Radeon 7000. I'm ahead of myself yet. Radeon 7000, great GPUs. At first, the availability was so-so. And even though those are potent super GPUs, let's be honest. Right now, if you want the best gaming experience on PC in terms of visuals, right? Your best bet is NVIDIA. Why is that? DLSS and ray tracing performance and frame generation, right? There are games that support all three. And those games that support all three, provided you have enough performance headroom, and I'm looking at you, RTX 4060, just provided you have enough performance headroom, you're going to get the best visual and performance experience from NVIDIA GPUs. And that's not something that you can buy AMD side, regardless of how much you spend. 7900 XTX, gigabyte one that I reviewed, still love that GPU, always love that GPU. But I can tell you, visuals for visuals versus an RTX even 4070, you crank that up to max detail using DLSS 3, using frame generation, using path tracing, or whatever it is going to objectively deliver a superior image to what I can get AMD side. And the price difference between these GPUs is pretty much a lot, right? So the reason I bring this up is because we all know that Navi 4X series, 44, 43, I never know how these things go. That's going to launch apparently at some point at CES next year. And I'm eagerly looking forward to that. Why is that? Because I think for the first time we will have, or in a long time, we'll have some sort of parity in terms of pixel quality and visual fidelity between NVIDIA and AMD, which we haven't had since the 6000 series from AMD. Again, why is that? Because as soon as DLSS came, I think it was lights out. Genuinely, let's be honest, it was just lights out. Because as I said earlier, if you want the best pixel quality, right? You want the best visual experience, you had no choice but to go with NVIDIA. That's about to change with the Navi 44X series or 40 series. Every time I say 40 series, I think NVIDIA and I just say Navi 40. But anyway, with that series, the Radeon 8000, I hope it's called that, when it comes out, we will have FSR 4, which is AI based, and that's awesome. And from what we know of the PS5 Pro, the RT performance or the RT hardware borrows a lot from what you will be getting in RDNA 4. How much it borrows, I can't tell you, right? But from what we know thus far from people like Digital Foundry and whatnot, it looks like there's quite a significant uplift in terms of ray tracing performance in RDNA 4, or at least the RDNA 4 parts that deal with ray tracing. So I'm looking forward to that, and I hope on the desktop we'll even get more of that performance, regardless of how high-end a SKU or SKUs AMD ends up releasing. On NVIDIA side, there isn't much to say. We know Blackwell is going to be fast. All I can hope for on NVIDIA side is that the prices are more affordable and that we actually get more competent GPUs than we got with the 4000 series, particularly on the low end. The high end, they were good, but on the low end, that was not it. 4060 Ti, 8 gigabytes, like why? What is that? And for the price, really? But then again, NVIDIA could sell that GPU because your alternative AMD side is not the functional equivalent, is not the pixel quality equivalent. So they were in a race of essentially one. And because if you're in a race of one, you can't help but win, you can charge whatever you want. So with Navi 43, 44, whatever, how they name them, when they come out, I hope they give the equivalent of the RTX 4060, right, for Blackwell, a run for its money. Because ultimately, we, the end users, win from that, right? I don't know about people, some of you who have shares at AMD or NVIDIA. I don't. So I want my pockets to win. I want my experience to win because, yeah, I want them to make their money. But more than anything else, I'm firstly concerned about my experience and my bang for buck. So if I can get a reasonable price, great visual quality and performance and power consumption as well, with all things being equal in terms of pixel quality or image fidelity with FSR 4 versus DLSS, and ray tracing performance is good, may the best man win, best woman, whatever, may the best GPU win, I'll take that. But anyway, I've spoken long enough. How long is that? 22 minutes? Yeah, it's 22 minutes. With that said, I'll see you guys next time. This is just a random, I don't even know what to call this. I'll figure it out when I post the video. But I hope to come to you more often, talk about this stuff and just general stuff that's happening. And I've made it so that it's convenient to record this, or at least a lot more convenient than it used to be. And yeah, until the next time. Oh, actually, my next review is my first Arctic cooling liquid freezer 3 AIO. And I must say, my first experience with Arctic, oh, I'm blown away. Oh, I didn't know that they would give you such a great experience in terms of the product itself. The entire experience of me getting the AIO and all of that stuff, yeah, that was, let's not talk about that. But the actual product performance itself, wow, 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 wow. I think it's the best performing cooler I've actually put through its paces. Yeah, it's the best performing cooler. So I hope to be able to bring you that review tomorrow, which is a Friday, or Saturday. But it will, that's definitely my next review. Anyway, until the next time, take care of yourselves, guys, and I hope this has been insightful, just to share some thoughts, ideas, and just some information about the channel and myself and all of that stuff here. And I'll see you guys on the next time. Take care and peace.